Welcome to Effective People, your HR transformation partner.
My name is Erik. I'm from Effective People. I work as a solution advisor. I come from a role as an implementation consultant of SuccessFactors, and I have worked with SuccessFactors various modules, including also Employee Central and all the org charting there, and have seen the evolution over the years, and also worked with a lot of companies where the standard wasn't always exactly what was needed. Therefore, at Effective People, we have been partnering with Ingentis, which is a long-time partner of SAP as well. And Marcus, would you like to say hello?
Absolutely. Hi. So hi, everybody. My name is Marcus. I'm a solution expert here at Ingentis, being with the company for 13 years now. And I had the pleasure and the joy to work with various companies from different industries, from small to large scale. And my focus is really about running everything around org simulations, org design, and org analytics. And as mentioned by Erik, the idea of today is really not to bother you with a lot of boring theory, but really just to focus on what is today available in SuccessFactors and also how certain extensions can enhance basically the default functionality. Thank you.
Thanks for that. And before you ever embark on a journey with something new, it's a good idea to know what's there. And that's what we'll spend the next few minutes just to make sure everyone's aware of the capabilities of SuccessFactors. So first of all, everyone will have seen and used the regular org chart, which just got a makeover in the latest release. So this is what you will see, making it a little bit more fresh and scaled down so that you can see a little bit more on screen, and also aligning between the web and the mobile app version. So that's pretty cool. Target audience for the regular org chart, and although it is called org chart, it is the manager-employee relationship. It also has dotted line relationships. So it's not really an organization chart, but more manager-employee chart. There's use cases for new hires who can see, okay, who is I'm working with, who's my manager, how different lines related. For the manager, if you're a new manager, first-time manager, you have people transferring in, gives you access to see who's reporting to whom. And also for HR, to have an overview of the organization that they are supporting. So essentially, employee line manager hierarchy together with also dotted line. And if you're using Employee Central, you have global assignments. It'll also showcase that in this regular chart. If you're using time off, it'll also show if you have people on long-term leave or absences. There will be a little icon next to each person. So this is one that everyone has and has been in the system for the last, ever since SuccessFactors was invented, there has been this org chart. Now, if you're using Employee Central or using succession management, you may have the possibility of also using the position org chart, shown also in the org chart organization menu. It's used for managing positions, and it's what has been around for quite some time. It's for manager purposes or manager use cases, as well as HR, shows the hierarchy between positions. If you had also selected position attributes, it's slightly configurable. You can select what fields to show on the position node, but the look and feel is as is here. We would expect the UI to be updated in an upcoming release, because this shows from a usability perspective the same look and feel as the org chart did prior to this latest release. So possibly there will be an update to the precision org chart UI. Now, not that it's related to precision org chart or org charting, but there is a new screen specifically targeting managers, my team positions that came in. We thought we just put it in here because we know from the audience that many of you are, if you're working with positions, this one here is actually quite interesting because it helps managers especially to understand what are the positions they have responsibility for. And also, it's just a different view from the position org chart, making it easier for managers to work with. It's not finished developing this functionality yet. It will be enhanced, we have been told, in the second half release as well of 24. So this is version 1 of my team positions. So, And then we also have succession org chart, which is another side of the position org chart. So typically, if you're using succession management and you have Employee Central, you likely also have you're utilizing the position view. So the succession org chart is the same underlying data structures, targeting use cases for managers who need to nominate employees, and HR talent management who need to understand what are the succession plans for the critical positions we have in our organization. From a structure perspective, it shows the same positions as what you have in the position org chart, but we can add some extra data related to succession management. Quite limited in terms of number of fields. We're not able to blend in any metrics in it. From a look and feel, the structure is also locked. So it's quite consistent with what we see in the position org chart. Then we're moving onwards to what is really org chart, organization charts in SuccessFactors. This is called the company structure overview or company structure viewer. You're able to visualize different organizational structures, whether it's divisions, departments, legal entities, cost centers, even positions can also be included in company structure viewer. Any given company will have multiple structures. There might be a legal entity structure, there might be a cost center structure, there might be a geographical structure, and there might be a business structure, as we're seeing here, with divisions and sub-departments. Quite flexible in terms of visualization, so no matter what types of structures you have, and if you have custom objects, you're able to also structure them. Many different use cases, for example, as a manager, who's the head of the division that I'm working in, and how many people in a certain division or a certain department to get an understanding of the organization, how many positions, and also what are the parent positions or parent nodes and child nodes for a given organization entity. From an HR perspective, many different HR functions will also find quite useful information. However, it's limited in terms of metrics, so we can't see to have departments with no employees in it. You have to find them yourself. The system will prompt you for it, so it's difficult to work with that way. And also, it shows data as of right now. You can select a different date, but you're not able to do any modeling, for example, in here. It shows data straight from the system. There is also, those of you using compensation, you might also be using what's called the compensation planner hierarchy or the compensation manager hierarchy. And within the compensation home, there is a way to visualize that. Not super fancy, and I'm actually sometimes surprised to see that we still have a UI that has not changed for more than 15 years. It looks exactly the same as what it is 15 years ago, this screen here. And essentially, it's a more an admin side tool, although I wouldn't be satisfied if SAP took the time to also fix this and upgrade it to a better UI, because it is something that is useful, especially if you're working with compensation management and you're using the compensation plan hierarchy. This is not a bad tool to help you understand the compensation plan, but it's just to show that it's there. So what is it that we are seeing in SuccessFactors? Well, first of all, the different tools, they are coming built in, so they're ready to use. There's no integration, no data. If the data changes, the org charts, all of them, they're updated on an immediate basis. Part of your license, there's nothing you need to pay for extra. Quite readily available. There's a little bit of configuration, but they're quite simple to set up. It's maintained by SAP, so they will take care of making updates to the capabilities. If there's enough customers who want to see a certain function in, that will be then adopted by SAP eventually, if it fits into the product, of course, and if it's possible to do. And also, it provides links to employee profiles, to the positions, to org structures, affected data transactions. You can initiate a promotion, a demotion, a data change, whatever. You can initiate that from the different objects. So all in all, there's quite a lot of advantages with these org charting tools. On the other hand, there's also some limitations. And anything that's easy to adopt and easy to set up also needs to be quite limited in flexibility. So configuration options are quite limited. If you want to change the look and feel, if you have certain needs there. If you want to add extra data, so for example, HR metrics, retention rate for a department, or diversity ratios or average tenure or things like that. That is not possible to do within any of the org chart tools that we have in SuccessFactors. There's also a little support for organizational analysis, so depth of organizations or width of organization structures. That's very difficult to do. I mean, it's not really supported. It's more a visualization tool than an analysis tool. If you're looking for tools where you can use reorganizational planning or build different models of a potential organization, that is also not supported. It's a visualization tool. So org planning or charting is not a supported use case. And then last but not least, the tools are showing formal reporting lines, chain of command. And if you have any informal professional relationships or other data that connects people, and that's often what you see is that we may have formal reporting lines, but it's all the informal lines that actually help people be effective. Yes, we need to have formal lines, but we also need to have informal collaboration in projects, in different teams, in different constellations. That is not something that any of these tools are designed or constructed to solve. So these are some of the reasons why companies might choose to work with a third-party product like Ingentis. So SAP are quite open about this. They say, well, they want to have a clean core and then let partners do the rest. So they have a stronger than one product strategy, allowing third-party providers to build applications that then integrate with SuccessFactors in various ways, either with data or with user interface or both ways. At FX People, as you know, we have been working with SuccessFactors for quite many years. We have seen the tool evolve over the past 20 years, to be more precise. And org charting is one of the areas that has always, it's been enough, but to close certain feature gaps, but it's never really been a killer capability with SuccessFactors. We chose to work with Ingentis some years ago because they were a proven partner with SAP. So they worked with SAP prior even to the SuccessFactors acquisition many years ago. There are hundreds of happy companies working with Ingentis already on the SAP side, and also growing number on the SuccessFactors side. It's a flexible solution, so it supports SuccessFactors data directly, either via APIs or imported data or a combination. And then also it fills some product gaps that we see and some of our customers also see in terms of visualization, org restructuring, and also organizational planning capabilities. So doesn't mean that you use Ingentis and then you throw all the other tools away. It's more a side-by-side choice. It might be, for example, for org restructuring. Marcus will come into that it's not everyone in a company that will be using the org restructuring capabilities. It's a limited group of people. Therefore, the existing SuccessFactors tools, they are certainly still very much relevant. So let's move onwards, and I'll be happy to give the word to Marcus if you want to tell us a little bit about how we can integrate these tools with SuccessFactors.
Thank you so much. So as introduced by Erik already, we are offering a solution called the Ingentis Org Manager, which is not competing with any of the built-in functionalities SuccessFactors or Effective People as a partner might offer to you. It is really a solution which is supposed to close any kind of gap you might face while working with the SuccessFactors standard. And if we take a look at the next slide, you will find basically a collection of, or let's say, a collection of the topics which Erik has mentioned already, but more the context of a wish list. The SAP SuccessFactors community has been, let's say, collected. And the items displayed here on the screen basically represent some of the most voted functionalities which people seem to miss. And among many others, I mean, the situation around org design, org effectiveness is always on their radar. So this is really something where when you work with SuccessFactors, you have to go back to kind of PowerPoint, Excel or Visio, right? Because usually in the end, reorganizations and mergers need to be planned somehow. And that is really one of the most requested functionalities when companies reach out to Ingentis and ask for sophisticated support. But also, I mean, more or less simple needs, such as the option to hide objects, are helpful, right? So you might not believe it, but one of the most voted features is really to say, hey, I would like to hide people who are on garden leave, or I would like to hide externals, for example, from the org chart display. And if we just pick up the slogan again from the webinar, you will for sure agree that metrics do play an important role when it comes to the evaluation of a decision, right? So simple metrics such as an accurate calculated span of control, or head count, FTE count, number of managers, spans and layers are really helpful when you want to take HR data as a basis for a decision, for example, as part of a reorg. The remaining items on this slide are all about the enhanced visualization, which I guess is something you would anyway expect from a third-party solution like Org Manager, but it's all about the display of the structures, including conditional formatting, custom content, and custom layout. And in a nutshell, really, these are basically the things we and effective people as software and implementation partners are trying to cope with somehow, and to offer a solution which makes your life a bit easier when you work with SuccessFactors. And you might now wonder if these bullet points have been created for the purpose of enabling sales, right? Yes, of course, maybe for a certain extent they do, but in fact, they reflect a real life example. And what you can see here on the screen now is a improvement request from the SAP community from a company being out there from Norway. And it basically comes with a number of 41 votes. It has been launched in the year 2019. And basically, as of today, nothing has happened. It's really a very simple need. What I have mentioned up earlier is to hide certain employees from the org chart. Now, is this really, let's say, data-driven to decision or not? But in the end, it simply reflects a valid need that, hey, I would like to see people who are really reporting to in my structure. And on the next slide, you will basically find quite a tough question, to be honest, like strategic benefits in the field of HR when it comes to enhanced org charting. But I think strategic is really a big word, and everyone wants to do something strategic somehow. So how can an enhanced org charting be in fact strategic? So I guess the response is that it fits like a piece of a puzzle into a bigger picture, right? So important is to mention that org charts and activity around it are not only consumed by HR only. And if we take a look at the first point here, is that together with SAP, we have created a so-called value drive analysis. And while we were just double checking, okay, what impact can have a enhanced and sophisticated visibility on the structure can create is really that it might shorten up the ramp up time for employees, right? So it's easier for them to collaborate and to get tailored content and accesses, right? It's the reduced manual effort within HR, not only when it comes to the creation of an org chart, which might be sent out for audit purposes, but it's also about, as mentioned earlier, the calculation of certain metrics. And last but not least, a very important element, it's really the high acceptance of reorganizations. I mean, the majority, or a lot of reorganizations do fail because the people who are basically impacted by a reorg kind of do not accept this, or always have the feeling that they are the last ones being informed about a certain situation. Whereas with a solution like a software-driven support on reorgs, it's possible to include or to involve certain stakeholders at a quite early stage and show them basically how the future of the organization might look like. And I guess in the end, the generation of new insights for decision making do apply the most to org charting, right? So HR and org design teams benefit from the possibility to analyze the structures from different perspectives and angles. And for example, to run analysis around spans and layers on a living object, right? Instead of just a flat spreadsheet. And I mean, there are big buzzwords out there like org effectiveness, which kind of means everything and nothing, but in the end, it's something which becomes alive by running it along an in-grade report analysis, grade versus level, or target versus current span of control per job family. So in the end, also here, what I mentioned earlier above, like modeling structures and the right back to success factors is then obviously one of the most important requirements why companies do onboard our app and where HR and org design teams can really use the tool also for a strategic purpose. And a regular employee, as mentioned earlier, benefits from an easy way to navigate through the chart. But I think it's also important that HR has another option in their hands to involve the field of HR-related topics to involve the field when it comes to HR-related topics. Like, for example, a manager knows and understands the field usually much better than a central HR department and should be there at least in the co-pilot seat when it comes to important decisions around specific cases. So in a nutshell, there's not this one specific element which will stick out and point out and say, hey, this is what you can achieve with any kind of enhanced data visualization. But in the end, there are very different stakeholders who could benefit from a sophisticated and powerful display. I mean, as mentioned or introduced by Erik, everything starts basically from the world of success factors. And I think it's also a very good example how to demonstrate that any kind of satellite solution being nominated by SAP is not competing against any kind of built-in feature by being able to not only have a tile on the landing page, but even an entry in the home menu from where you can start the Ingentis augmented application. And I would like to really show in the next couple of minutes a set of different examples, which is dedicated to different user groups. Like one user group would be the regular employee, the other one would be the manager. And then on top of that, obviously, we will have to focus on the HR and org design teams. Maybe just to tick the box on the very first element, what also Erik introduced in his slides is, okay, how does the augmented solution enhance the classical org display? We have a simple example here where we have different perspectives, and each perspective is basically allowing us to have a focus on different use case, also on focusing on a different structure display. In our first example, we will have a classical org structure, so which means that we have elements like a business unit, a division, a department, which I can navigate through. I will have a tree view on my left-hand side and a detail panel on the right-hand side. So without focusing too much on any kind of detail functionality, you see it's very convenient for me to navigate through the hierarchy and take it from the business unit to the division, and then in the very end, down to the department. And if you just stick to this view for a second, it's already something you don't really have in SuccessFactors, where you have a classical department-to-department tree. You can have the incumbents or the employees of a position being assigned to a department, and I can click on somebody and then have a detail panel on the right-hand side. I guess that's what more or less everybody expects from a classical org charting display. But what about now if we again focus on the question on how coming from data to decisions? I would like to pick up a very simple use case, which is about vacant positions. And for that, I will make some more space on the screen. And you see that I can open an element called effects on the top here. And these effects basically to open a section called visualization rules, which allow me to have an adjusted content on the screen in runtime. So what this means is that I could just go ahead and say, hey, I would like to show, for example, who's the head of our department, or even more important, I would like to see certain metrics. And if I zoom in here for a second, you can see I'm counting simple stuff like positions, the staff ones, vacant ones, the level I'm in, the FTE, and the headcount. And down here, you can spot basically that I have one vacancy down here. So if I then would like to simply pick this example and say, I'm going to hide the employees, I'm going to show vacant positions, I'm going to zoom out for a second and expand that on 3 levels in order to have a very good overview. Okay, and how can I spot where I do have vacancies? I can zoom and you will notice that it's very difficult to kind of really read the content. Even I can't, right? And if we now stick to this use case for a second and maybe display the way and switch to the sunburst view, you can see that this is also not a display of 3 levels, right? And if I expand this whatever to 10 levels, you see that the entire structure still remains kind of visible to me. And if I now simply focus on how to color code something, so simply highlight every unit, every segment where I do have a vacancy, I can bring basically a macro and a micro view side by side. So I have my macro view on the right-hand side. I can go down on my micro view to one level. If I now make basically this fit to screen again, I can navigate using the macro view, and my micro view will basically follow accordingly. And this is a very simple example of how you can take the existing data you have in SuccessFactors and how you can combine this with the calculation of a metric and an adjusted display of the data. Now, I don't really want to shock you with the next example, but it's again how maybe a structure can be displayed and how it can be covered or combined with a very important use case. And what you can see here on the screen is for us, and I guess also for you, a very simple view on your HR master data being delivered from SuccessFactors. You have a position-based hierarchy here on the left-hand side, and you can even go ahead and navigate through the hierarchy. And in the center, you can focus on the situation around span of control. It was, I would say, maybe, yeah, really interesting to see how the entire spans and layer topic became more and more present again. And if we focus here on the center of the screen for a second, you can see certain tiles being color-coded in a red color, an orange color, and also in a green color. And the numbers you can see basically in these tiles are simply meaning, okay, how many managers do I have reporting basically to this manager, and how many of them are basically having a span of control, which is not in the guidance of or the strategy our organization has set it up. And to come up with such a view is usually very difficult, like even if you try to do this in an Excel spreadsheet, but that's really where you can see how a solution can distinguish basically from the default display, and how a very simple information like the reporting line can provide really great insights. And in this view, we can even go ahead and navigate, so we can drill down the structure. And on the right-hand side, we can also then have a highlight of the positions where we might need to take a detailed look in. So why basically is the position director of finance or whomever only managing very little or maybe too many positions? So not deep diving more into that, but again, just to illustrate that an org chart could really be used in a very, very different manner. Coming back to the ability to work with the structure within a solution and the org design piece, I will move ahead and show you a different view on the data, which is again based on the org structure. And from here on, if I simply would try to drag and drop an object around, you will see that's impossible because I'm still in a pure display only mode. But the simulation functionality basically would allow you to run a reorg of your structure against a certain benchmark, or just maybe along a certain strategy you and your team are following. And you don't have to export the data into an Excel spreadsheet and maybe work with Visio, but you can do that directly in the application. And as you can see, I can have multiple different scenarios in parallel. And you can always go ahead and create a scenario for a certain effective date and also on a certain structure. So sometimes organizations like to work on a position-based hierarchy. And on the other hand, organizations like to work or to simulate the structures in a org structure-based hierarchy. And I have prepared already a stat, so we just save some time. What we can do in here is obviously that we can collaborate as a team on this scenario. So I could invite a colleague called maybe Steve into that one here, and Steve should be allowed to have read and write rights, so I'm not alone. And therefore, I can really have a team of business partners, of strategic advisors cooperate on one and the same case. If I now open that again, you will see that the application is loading the sandbox to me. So I can now really go ahead and do any kind of change, and really not really focusing now on the application itself, but more on the scenario and the use case. That usually from the moment you start to do a planning, you would take a PowerPoint or a PNG export from your SuccessFactors, and you would try to drag and drop around. And here now you have the accurate data already in place, and by simply pressing the play button, you can go ahead and make your way through the hierarchy you want, and for example, do some whatever drag and drop action. A simpler one is to move an entire team. So here I can just click on Czech Republic and drop the entire team under the best run corporation. And you can see here now I have basically one element which is color coded in a blue box, simply highlighting that this one has been modified. Of course, I can also make some more space on the screen. So I can click on that and whatever, adjust the look and feel of that to a row length of 4. And I could now, for example, decide to split the global operations team into 2 sections. So I could just hover over and press the button and say I would like to create my famous ABC unit. And as a head of, we would like to make Nicole Anderson. And if I now save that, you can already see that in this case, we can have a new element being color-coded in green. And a very common question that is, hey, okay, does this have already a real impact into SuccessFactors? Can I really play around as much as I want? And what happens if the data in the backend of SuccessFactors has been updated? I mean, obviously the solution in general takes care about that. So you can always go ahead and re-import fresh data from EC in here. If I now again just switch to the rules section, which you have seen before, and open the department rules, I will switch to the KPIs of department and will zoom in for you for a second. Now I would simply like to focus you on this metrics you can see here. So if I try to move Nicole, obviously that won't work because the application is really providing me for making this mistake. The assignment works over the position. I can now go ahead and make the move. And you see now that basically the metrics do adjust also in runtime according to my change. And here, it would take a bit too much time for this webinar, but you should know it's a very common practice that organizations like to inject benchmark data into the structure display. So it could be an approved budget you might have. It could be an approved span of control you might want to have for a certain team. And then basically the application would allow you, or would in runtime benchmark your current situation against the structure and would work with color codings if you basically are in line or out of the agreement you would like to achieve. Also here, a frequent question is, what about any kind of data attributes we have within SuccessFactors? Is this something you can really fetch with the application? Obviously, yes, this also works in here, so you can take advantage of the edit of free text, but also of pick lists. And then, for example, you could simply go ahead and make this position a critical one. Going back to the classical reorg topic, I said that I would like to split global operations. So either I adjust the display according to the selection I have made, or I can also go back to the tree view and then go ahead and say, okay, global operations is something I would cut. I would like to split, and I would like to use the human resources of South Africa and have it basically being pushed from global operations to the ABC unit. And then my ABC unit now became a parent. And if I expand this on multiple levers, you see that I have ABC unit and then my children below. Obviously, this one here did not change. So they're still reporting to the same parent. Therefore, I also don't have any kind of adjustment. The use of these rules you have seen here on the left-hand side is something which is very powerful, because in the end, it allows you to have or to keep a focus on something, right? I mean, not really running you in the same exercise again, but just assume that you would like to see where you have a vacancy or where you have a certain average age and so on, like on the employee. This application would simply allow you to have the focus on the actions you're running. Now, last task before we come to the last example and then also to the Q&A session is really that I can stop that. I can go back to my overview page. And in this case, with the Org Manager solution, I can run a comparison of my simulated structure against the data of SuccessFactors. And the solution will offer me a so-called CSV and MDF data export. And obviously here the team around Erik and effective people, they are experts in how to write it back into EC. The MDF data export is a native file, but obviously you will have some constraints around workflows, approvals, and so on. And the MDF export data is something which you can use as a master package and use the default import-export functionality of SuccessFactors to make the newly modeled structure effective also in your EC environment. This will take another second. Once it's done, then we'll come back to this example. The last one, since I wanted to cover next to the classical org charting and the display of metrics and so on, also the element around quality. The display of a structure could also look like this, as you see it here, but the main player is on the left-hand side, the ability to run a certain query of logical checks on the data. Here we have worked with a very simple example, but in the end, it would allow you to run checks. Where do we have a deviating cost center? Where do we have positions without a parent? Where do we have a lot of vacancies? I mean, in the end, you name it. And the nice situation here is that you could simply basically click on somewhere. I would like to see where the cost center is different from the parent, right? And you can get a hit list on the right-hand side, which simply shows you basically all the hits. You can have the color coding in the sunburst chart, so you see where things are going good or bad, more or less. And the same way, you have, of course, the ability to take a look at the error rate within a classical org chart view, where the solution would support you in the display and calculation of the errors of an object, but also in a recursive way X object. So for example, here, if I would like to understand who are these 4 employees, who do have multiple parents, then you see that it lists like that. Of course, in the end, this can also be exported. Now, why am I demonstrating that to you, and what has this really to do with the org chart? In the end, it's a nice example how you can measure data completeness and data quality. And it's a real life example of one of our customers we have here who was really suffering from a very low completeness and quality. And they simply announced a challenge that each regional team was ranked basically on the quality and completeness, and they announced a monthly winner and a annual winner. And I think the monthly winner was allowed to have a small team dinner at the end of the month, and the annual winner was then sponsored by a team event. And unfortunately, I'm not really allowed to share any kind of numbers, but there was a significant increase in the quality, basically, and the completeness by simply making that data visible, and it's not only hidden, basically, under the hood. All right, now last topic in here, our comparison is ready. So here we can now see what we have adjusted. So we have a new object, we have a changed object, we have moved a person, we have created a object and changed the assignment. And this is then something you can export into a CSV format, but also into an MDF export. And the MDF export is basically a very specific file format of SuccessFactors. And if you simply execute here the import and export data functionality, then you can go ahead and, not running this to the very end, click on import data and then select the zip file, and then you can take it further to push the data back into SuccessFactors. That is all I wanted to present to you guys today. So I'm handing back over to Erik and the team of Effective People. As a conclusion, it's really not about presenting something which would be an either-or decision. It's really something which runs side by side with SuccessFactors, which can simply support your daily processes. And it's addressing something for not only HR teams, but a regular employee over a manager, over the HR team, over the team level can benefit from a solution like the ones we offer within our portfolio. Thank you.
I'm wondering if we have any questions that have come through the chat.
We have a few coming in through the chat. The first one is, what will happen with the existing SuccessFactors org charts if we implement Ingentis?
All right, yeah, I can take that. So essentially, the existing org charts in SuccessFactors, they stay as is. They won't go away. They will still be there. Some of them can be permissioned. So if you choose to say, well, we do not want the regular org chart to be visible, you can permission that so it's not visible except maybe for some power users, and then instead direct people to the Ingentis org chart. You can do that either via the text search, action search in SuccessFactors, or via homepage tile, or you could also add a menu item in SuccessFactors. You can add a link to the org chart, so people would see that instead of the SuccessFactors org chart and the SuccessFactors directory.
Great. The next one is it possible to implement Ingentis without any involvement from IT?
All right. Well, I actually leave that to Marcus because you're the expert there.
Yeah, absolutely. The answer is more or less a yes and no. So you will need Ingentis and to a certain extent your implementation partner, like Effective People. The good news is that the efforts are really lean. So you have to create a role into users. This already allows basically Ingentis and Effective People to deploy the application. And from there on, it's more the business who is in the driver's seat from a customer side in order to maybe nominate certain requirements and needs. And IT then is required again if it were, let's say, the SuccessFactors administrators are required again when it comes to maybe the adjustment of a role or maybe if required at all to the implementation of any kind of custom field. But it's not a real IT project. It's more a content requirements driven project which will be delivered.
Okay, thank you. The next one is how many different org charts are delivered together with Ingentis?
I can take that. The default configuration of the augmented solution comes with the display of 3, we call it evaluation paths. So the ones who have worked with SAP before might still remember that phrase. So the employee hierarchy, the position hierarchy, and also the classical org hierarchy is part of it. And org hierarchy, of course, also includes any kind of custom MDF object types you might have in place. But of course, according to your requirements, if you have certain additional needs, then the rest would be customization without any coding involved, but it would just be a pure configuration topic.
Okay. The next question is how complicated is it to implement Ingentis?
That's a good one.
That's a relative question. No, it's everything is easy once you've tried it a few times. I think there are cases where it's more complicated than others. If you're a very large organization and you have very specific requirements on both on visualization, on data volumes, on metric calculations, or for example, retention rate, there is a calculation formula for that. But if you have specific needs, that takes time. So there could also be a phased approach where you get certain capabilities out and then you wait for additional features, so additional charts to be made available at a later point. I don't know if you have anything to add there, Marcus.
Not really. I mean, maybe to give a bit of a timeline, we had really customers going live really after 10 working days because they had a really tough timeline and they just had a very simple need of delivering a great org chart to the audience. And then in a wave 2 or wave 3, stuff are being enhanced. But at the same time, we also had, according to what Erik mentioned, a project duration of basically 8 weeks where everything goes live in one big bang, kind of. So therefore, it's not so much the question about how complicated, how long it is. It's the combination of requirements, basically the custom raises, and also a bit of the creativity of all participants of the project.
Okay, thank you. We have one last question. Where is our data stored? For example, would it be replicated to another system if we implement Ingentis org charts?
Mm-hmm.
I can start with that. So,
yes.
So essentially, there is a possibility to do a live read from SuccessFactors via the SuccessFactors API, or you can choose to replicate data via flat files or XML files to the Ingentis solution. So that depends a little bit. Ingentis, you can talk a little bit about the solution or the technical architecture, Marcus, but that's the 2 options. If you're a small organization, then the live API probably will suit you. If you're a little bit larger, then for performance reasons, you might want to replicate data out, but of course also considering data security and what type of data you're replicating out. But Mark can talk a little bit to the solution architecture.
In fact, what we have done with the latest releases is really that the interface to success or interfacing with SuccessFactors is something we have, let's say, centralized more and more to the OData API. So the injection of additional data via CSV, as introduced by Erik, is something we have considered as very successful when it comes to additional data to be joined, which is not hosted within SuccessFactors. And in order to overcome the limitations of the OData API from performance point of view, especially for large organizations, we are buffering the data on a database which sits on the platform. The app runs on the so-called SAP Business Technology platform. And we run this on different data centers over the globe. In Europe, we use Microsoft Azure in the Netherlands because we can ensure 100% of GDPR compliance here. And basically, a technical user will read the data and will buffer it. And if any kind of interaction is not running smoothly, then the request is being sent again until the data is fetched entirely. So I guess most of you or all of you might have faced the trouble from time to time if you're trying to read bulk data from SuccessFactors, that the API has its ups and downs.
Yeah. Erik, you're muted if you're saying
something. Essentially,
yeah.
It's a business technology platform. Based application, and that's also one of the reasons why we have chosen to work with Ingentis, because BTP, or Business Technology Platform, that's also the platform or the framework that we use to develop applications for SuccessFactors. So it makes very good sense to be able to run this on the same technology stack. So yeah, closing and what to take home. I mean, SuccessFactors org charts are there. They are key components of being able to navigate your data, of utilizing the application. They continue to be updated. The latest release just saw a major overhaul of the org chart, and also, for example, the My Team Position Viewer, which is much needed. I think in 1 or 2 years' time from now, we will not be able to imagine how life was before we had the My Team Position Viewer for at least line managers. Ingentis is maybe not for everyone, but it is for quite a lot. Hundreds of companies are using it already for different use cases. So we're very happy to be a partner of Ingentis, and I think it's a great addition. Does provide lots of added value, both in terms of technical, operational, but also strategic value, especially if you're looking to drive HR metrics agendas like that. Making better use of your data, converting data to information, and help managers and HR make more informed decisions, which is one of the things that we're striving our customers to do. So yeah, if you have any questions, or if you have any needs, or want to have a more focused session and ask questions, I know not everyone's comfortable asking questions in a chat like this, then please do reach out to us. We're very happy to support you and discuss your org charting needs in the future. So on behalf of the entire Effective People team, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you for joining. We hope you found this video insightful and inspiring. If you're ready to take your workforce to the next level, visit our website for more valuable resources and solutions.